All right, and then this is on the Google Slides thing, so if you want to follow along, or you just go straight to links and stuff like that to go find it, download it, and source code, all that stuff. There's a couple of those little barcodey things that are cute. All right, so let's see. So this is a Visits and Protocols plugin. I've been working on it for a little while. It's gone through several different iterations. And what it does is adds some scheduling and experiment session tracking stuff, features to longitudinal studies, and it allows you to track stuff like the protocol requirements, missed visits, or what we call deviations, and missed experiments within those sessions, and the ability to visualize some of the progress on your studies. So it's currently in a very early alpha phase release for 1.7, which means it doesn't work. It's got a few little issues with some velocity templates, but if you'd like to help me work those out, that'd be great. But it's a bigger plugin than a lot of these other ones out there, so I think that we'll work through some of the problems with the visits thing there pretty quickly in the next week or so. But it is available as a beta module for 1.6.5, so that's what a lot of this demo is kind of going through. It looks basically the same. So we'll cover like where to get it, how to install it, which basically is the plugin thing, which is simple, and how to use it. The using it part is there's a couple major components. Is the new protocol manager or editor, which used to, in the very earlier versions of this Visits and Protocols module, you would write up a big long JSON file that would describe your protocol, and then you'd upload it, and it may or may not work, and then you have to change it. There's a lot of coding and stuff, so this is all kind of visual and hopefully a lot better. The project association with a protocol, which is just like saying, hey project, this is the protocol you're using. And then the subject vision, it's the dashboard, the project dashboard that shows like this is all of the experiments for each visit for each subject that's laid out and little icons and stuff. And then there's a part where we're actually managing the visits on the project that's under this protocol. And then what happens if you need to change a protocol in the middle of your study or something, or you messed it up in the first place. And so I got a little example of that. And we have some versioning for protocols, so that makes sense. This is where you can get it. Like I said, don't expect a lot out of 1.7 quite yet. It's a work in progress. Okay, so this is the marketplace where it's at. So you've probably seen that. All right, so and it's pretty simple, like the 1.7 stuff. You just take it, drop it in your home plugins folder, restart Tomcat, pretty much good to go. In 1.6.5, you'll need to rebuild your XNAT once it's dropped into the XNAT modules locations place or whatever, but a lot of this is lined out. Okay, so once you have it, you get a little menu icon that says Manage Protocols up there that's added to your XNAT. You click that, and it takes you to your protocol manager. And from here, you can import an existing protocol that you may have exported previously from a previous version, which mostly will work. Some changes to the structure of the JSON, but or in this case, we're just going to start a new protocol. So let's start a new protocol. So this is what you do to create one. You give it a name, give it a description, and then you start adding visits. You click add your first visit down here, and what that's going to do is create a bunch of visit columns in this table, but just label your visit. It's a baseline visit. That's going to be the very first one, and it's not that exciting because it's going to start at day 0 of whenever a subject comes in, and you're not really going to have a window or anything. So let's go ahead and just create that one. And the window is, well, we'll get to that. But as soon as you create your first visit, we throw in a couple common experiments that you'll probably want to add, in which case, if you want them, you click the little checkbox. If you don't click the checkbox, they'll go away when you save it and you bring it back. So, but obviously, we'll probably want to add more experiments. So let's start with adding a new experiment type. in this case a pet session. There's a field for a subtype, which if you have multiple experiments of the same type and you want to just differentiate them for some reason, controls, I don't know, tracers, you'd want to specify that there. And then you can add assessors that are required on that experiment as well. So then we just, oh, well, now we're going and adding a second visit. Slides got out of order again. Anyway, so in this case, the second visit is offset by 120 days. And they've got a plus or minus 20-day window. I don't know, I'm just making this up, to come in. And you can copy the experiments if you've checked any boxes from the previous visits. You can find it in that drop down and it'll automatically add them because, you know, clicking is hard. But that kind of makes sure that it copies exactly the same ones if you want it to be the same. But anyway, so okay, now we have a really simple one, a first visit, a second visit, a final visit, and we've checked some check boxes. I don't know if this is realistic at all. I'm just, and we'll come back to see this in a little bit. But that's pretty much it as far as making the protocol. There's some options up here about unexpected experiments and ad hoc visits, and if you're allowing multiple open visits to be open at the same time, deviations, if you're allowing that kind of stuff. But we'll quickly go through just like some of the other little things that you would probably editing the users that own the protocol. You can just, there's all those users in the system. They got some funny names up there. You can give them access to associating the protocol and managing it. This is under View Projects. There's a dialog for kind of managing the associations to all different projects, and you can do this in bulk, and we'll see this in a little while. But you select all your any of the projects in there and click OK, and it adds them. And then lastly, there's a dialog for notifications, which we'll be adding to this down the road too, but email addresses that will get notifications of subjects that are missed visits or need an upcoming visit right away or something like that that haven't been scheduled. So then you save it. It adds it to the list of existing protocols here, gives it a version. And now we go to the project page where this is a sample project. And it doesn't have you'll see that you get a new protocol tab up there in the little summary thing. And you can select a protocol and then the version number that you want it to be associated with. So we do that. And again, back to here. This is a place where now that it's added there, they're called different. I got different screenshots from different versions. Don't pay attention to the version there. But anyway, that's just how it'll look in there when you. And the version that you're actually selecting is like up on the top there. So I don't know. Okay, so back to the project dashboard thing. Basically, that's quickly shows you like an icon view of little pluses that need to be added, experiments that need to be done for that. It's kind of blurry, I'm sorry. But anyway, and the little green checks that are that experiment's completed, and little slashes that are deviations, things that should have explanations on them as to why they didn't get that. And then that's also broken down by visits as well. And we're playing around with different ways to present that because I'm not sure that's going to quite stick that way. Okay, so now the subject visit stuff. So you get a protocol on your project, and now in the subject details page, you can go back to your old view by the view as experiment list up there. That button will show you the old straight list of experiments on the subject. But the default now with the protocol in place is that you get a protocol schedule, and it's going to tell you what upcoming expected visits based on your protocol are there, and it's kind of hard to see the date that's up there on the expected visit, but it's there. And so we'll need to open a visit, first it starts with the current date, I think, or something. Looks like that. And once we have the visit open, it automatically shows the next expected visit, but you need to fulfill the requirements in this one first. So you can edit or delete that visit. But in this case, it's like this is the protocol we were looking at earlier. So it's expecting an MR session and a PET session. And so we would go through and, it won't let you open. In this case, I think we must have had it checked so that it doesn't allow multiple open visits. I'll do that if you try and open it again. Otherwise, we then create the experiments, the upload sessions, or add the MR sessions. The little visit ID would be specified up there. Or if you already have a project with a whole bunch of data in it, a bunch of subjects and experiments, you go to that subject and you're going to get a list of unsorted experiments on the top of your protocol schedule here, which you don't need to go create those again, but there's a little drop down. It's tiny, but it says visit, and you can select like the 0, the first visit. So you just would go down your unsorted experiments and drop them into the buckets into the right. And then they'd show up in there. That's the way I did most of this. So create an MR and add it to the first visit, create a PET session, create the QCs for both of them and add them in. So now this first visit is got all of its requirements fulfilled. We can close it. So we do, and then we wait 4 months. There's an option to reopen it if you need to. So now the subject returns for the second visit, gets their MRI scan, but disaster strikes, and we have, I don't know if this happens at all, but the scanner blew a gasket. I don't. So we enter a deviation, some explanation as to why they can't get their CT scan. And so now that's what a deviation looks like there, and it'll show up in the little project dashboard as a nope. And then we realize there's also a problem with our protocol to begin with. We look at again, kind of hard to see, but it's a little bit bigger. The dates on the expected visit, and the second visit happen to be the same thing because we put the offset. I did this on purpose, but the offset was the same 120 days. That's the offset from when the first time the subject comes in. So why would you have a second visit and a final visit on the same day? That's silly. So we're going to go back and fix that. Obviously, hopefully you don't get too far in your study before you realize that it's a big problem like that. So we go back to the protocol editor, and if you hover over these the header columns here, little editor, deleter icons will show up, and you click on the little pencil, and you edit it. You change it to 240 days so that you are another 4 months out or something, I don't know, and save it. We now have version 2, but we keep records of the old protocols, and we can associate them back to the different versions to different projects. So we want to make sure that we update the project so the change takes effect. So there's a little reminder that says, hey, you probably want to update your projects. So here we go. We can do that in bulk. If you have multiple projects that are governed by the same protocols, you can change the versions here like this. Check the boxes. Now that one was checked, so it's got version 2 on it. And you would notice on the protocols tab in the project page that it's changed as well. That looks better. We have the next date in February, not on the exact same day as the second visit. So we're all good. So let's say, so that's the last visit. It knows that's the last visit in this sequence that we have here. And so it will designate it as a terminal visit. And so that's what that looks like. The other case where you might have a terminal visit is if the subject dies or drops out of the study, I guess, if that's, So you might create this, it would be equivalent to like an ad hoc visit, but there's a distinction there if you aren't allowing ad hoc visits, which are just visits that we randomly insert into the middle of the protocol schedule throughout the process there. So that option is available. Otherwise, you'd only have the option of a terminal visit. The subject's dropped out, and it would give you similar dialogue here. But anyway, so that's what that looks like, and we'd close that. That's pretty much the gist of that. Things that we would like to add in the future, and we've got some support before it, but we didn't want to go just to get it out the door. We're going to do the multi-arm support. So forked, basically a protocol of protocols. If if a subject has, certain subjects are on certain kind of medications and different kinds of, different diseases crop up or whatever, or I don't know exactly how the researcher would use this, but basically, yeah, that's something that a lot of different projects need, apparently. Better notification options, integration with REDCap scheduling, project dashboards, some the theme support that I showed earlier that would actually, it would work with basic stuff, but better integration. Better REST documentation and Swagger docs, which this was something I'd been developing before we ever did any of the 1.7 stuff, so we'll work on that. And then I want to refactor a lot of this. Well, a lot of the newer stuff was done in Angular JS, which is really kind of fun. If you guys like developing stuff, I'd recommend you check that out. And then also, it's pretty much set up for full internationalization and stuff. Not that the rest of XNAT is, but probably should get there too. So, and then some links on some of the same links, and then also links to the source control, source repository for it, both of the projects, and my email.
Very cool.
Thank you.